Hello YouTubers. So we went and finally picked up an old Mosin Nagant rifle. This is a Russian example. This is a project that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Never really had the time or energy to get it done. We wanted to take one of these massive long rifles. You can see this thing is just huge. 4 feet. Just a touch over 4 feet from stock to barrel, and it's pretty rough. We got some chips out of there and so on. Picked it up for just under 200 bucks. That's including 60 rounds of ammo and all the fees and so on. Pretty impressive long thing. I mean, it's been around since before World War II. This example is from 1940. Fantastic rifle though. I mean, these things always work. These are the precursor to the AK-47, and like the AK-47, they always worked. They made millions and millions of these. So what we intend to do with this project is to turn this old 1940 rifle into a modern sporting rifle, something you could take hunting deer. We'll put a different stock on it, make it so that it can have a detachable magazine, put a scope on it, a different trigger. The hardest part, of course, is going to be getting rid of all of the gunk that's here in the rifle. It's got this lovely stuff called cosmoline everywhere, and I mean everywhere. The whole thing is just covered in it. Pretty impressive little example though. Let's take a little bit closer look at it and explain a little bit more about this rifle. So yeah, you can tell this rifle has definitely been used, but it has been stored correctly. As awful as this stuff called cosmoline is, it does protect very well. When I say cosmoline, I'll kind of show you what that is. So if you look here on the bolt, let's see if I can take that off without ripping the whole rifle apart. It's not very easy to take off with that stuff on it. Cosmoline is that yellowish substance that you see all over the bolt. It is a great protectant for steel, but when it comes to actually working the parts, man, it's like jelly. It's thick stuff, and every ounce of this has to come off to make this a working weapon. But as you can see here, the bolt is actually in excellent condition. That's why I picked this particular gun. There were 6 or 7 of them in the rack at my local gun store. And I picked this one because it was pre-World War II. That's when the fit and finish was a little bit better because they weren't so desperate at producing them previous to World War II breaking out. Overall, the buttstock and the stock in itself, it was pretty rough. But seeing as how I wanted to replace the stock altogether, I didn't care about the stock. I cared about the bolt, cared about the receiver, cared about the barrel, and everything on this gun in terms of that is actually fantastic. So that's really good. The other part about this gun that I found attractive, first off, is that the numbers match. You can see the numbers here on the bolt and the numbers here on the receiver match each other. So that's really important to me, that, you know, it came with the same one. Now, that being said, if you find one that has different numbers on it, it's not the end of the world. A lot of these rifles were taken back into the arsenal, and if they found something that was broken or no longer good for use, they would replace it. So if it was replaced, you know, that can be a good thing, but I wanted a numbers matching gun. I didn't really care so much about the stock, like I said, and as you can see, it's pretty rough. But I did really care that the numbers matched, and it was a pre-World War II model. Surprisingly, the trigger on this machine is actually pretty good. Usually these old triggers are super heavy towards the end. They're spongy at the beginning. They have a long creep. Some of them can have heavy stages. Just depends on which one you got. But this one is actually not bad. It has a nice clean pull. Sorry, my table's shaking a little bit. And it has a nice clean break. But that's too bad because it's still getting replaced. So we'll do something that has a much cleaner break on it. I'm going to want to put a pretty good size scope on this. We're going to keep the barrel as long as possible. I may or may not shave off the end of the barrel and thread it to put a muzzle brake on it. We'll see what happens when we get to that point. But so this will be the beginning of this project, video 1. The second video is going to show how I took it all apart, cleaned every inch of it, and installed the new trigger group and the stock. And then after that, we'll do some accessorizing, such as the muzzle brake and getting rid of these old sights and putting on a good sized scope with its accompanying mount. And we'll go for there. So the idea of this project is to have a good sized sporting rifle that can be used for deer hunting, elk hunting, big game, as well as having fun out there target shooting long range. Goal is going to be spending less than $500 total, from the purchase of the gun to the purchase of all the accessories, taxes included. And let's see if we can't, when we're finished with it, I'll find a $500 gun that's comparable in caliber, and we'll see if we came out on top or not. But I don't really care too much about that. The fun part about it to me is taking something old and making it new, restoring it as it were, not to factory finish, but bringing it up to modern day standards. And so to me, that's worth more money than just going out and buying a $500 30-06, which would be the comparable caliber. It's going to be a lot more fun this way for me, and I think I'm going to take a lot more pride in it after the fact. So look for video number 2 on taking this thing down and cleaning it out and putting that new stock on it. It should be a fun ride.